Liberty in our lifetimes in a free state of our own. That's the vision. That's the dream. We are building it in New Hampshire. I'm Eric Brakey, your host and renegade statesman for the Porcupine Report. Welcome to your source for porcupine news and free-range conversation on matters of liberty. All right, let's hop into the show. Hey there, and welcome all you porcupines. This is your host, your renegade statesman, your executive director of the New Hampshire Free State Project, Eric Brakey, coming to you for episode 72 of the Porcupine Report. Thank you as always for joining me. It was really nice to know that the audience is always growing, and I'm always getting great feedback from folks who watch the show. As a reminder, one thing that you can do to help promote the show is to share it and leave nice comments. Share it with your friends and family. I know it's hard because we're on all these different platforms. We're on the Free State Project X page, Facebook page, YouTube page, Spotify page, and all of them have like different things to like, it's not always called share or whatever. So do whatever is appropriate for whatever platform you're enjoying the show on. Share, like, subscribe, follow. I'm sure you can figure it out. All these things really help promote the show, expand our audience. And one thing I've heard that's been great feedback from so many people is not only a lot of folks who are in New Hampshire, participants in the Free State Project, watch this show, but a lot of people who are friends of the Free State from outside New Hampshire. Maybe they're planning to move in the future, or maybe they're just folks who like to visit for Liberty Forum or PorcFest. I keep getting wonderful feedback from folks who appreciate that this show has helped them feel connected with what's going on in the community, what's going on in New Hampshire, as they, particularly for folks who are planning to make the move. It's really nice, been nice to hear that this has helped people stay connected as they're making their plans. Before we get into the rest of today's show, though, I want to plug our sponsor, as always, which is, of course, Porcupine Coffee Roasting. I really appreciate that this is not just coffee. It's a revolution in your mug, proudly operated by Free Staters right here in the Free State. They roast only specialty grade beans from small producers, always fresh, roasted in small batches to order with a roast date you can trust. No stale beans from these liberty lovers. Porcupine Coffee is all about sovereignty. As a private membership association, they embody the live free or die ethic and give the freedom-loving a way to stay caffeinated every day and have a little of that free state spirit in your step. When you drink Porcupine Coffee, you're supporting a small independent PMA powered by Free Staters dedicated to living free. And here is the deal. Use code PorcReport for 15% off of individual products at porcupinecoffee.com. Plus, a portion of your purchase will go to support the show. So that's a great thing, too. So grab your fresh roasted coffee and support Liberty one cup at a time. Head to porcupinecoffee.com and use discount code PorcReport for 15% off. Live free, drink free with your fellow Free Staters. All right. Thank you to Porcupine Coffee Roasting. A few events I want to let you know about. First of all, you would know about all of these events if you are subscribed to the Free State Project newsletter. And if you aren't subscribed, you're going to want to go ahead to fsp.org and click subscribe. We work very hard on this every single week to get you a fresh newsletter with upcoming events and my own personal musings on phenomenon happening in the Free State. But some upcoming events. Now, this Saturday is the annual NHLA, the New Hampshire Liberty Alliance, their annual Liberty Dinner. And I would tell you to come on out and get your tickets, but I'm sorry to tell you, they are sold out. They're sold out on tickets. So if you haven't got your tickets yet, I apologize. You have to wait till next year. It's going to be a fun shindig. We call it Liberty Prom for a reason. Everyone enjoys their opportunity to dress up in their best formal attire. We're going to have there's going to be a great speaker from the Institute for Justice there this year. We're going to hear about the unveiled New Hampshire Liberty Alliance scorecard of all the legislators based on their votes and who's going to be their legislator and activist of the year. I'm looking forward to attending, and I really enjoyed being their keynote speaker last year. This year they got someone much better. So I'm looking forward to that on Saturday. But if you can't get a ticket for that and you've missed out, well, there's always so many things going on. Check out the New Hampshire Liberty Calendar at fsp.org. And one event I really want to urge you to come out to is so not this weekend, but the following weekend, Freedom Palooza, and you can get your tickets to that at freedompaloozanh.com. If you listen to last week's episode, we talked all about this with Keith Bissett. This is going to be headlined by the Mammals, a lot of great other musical acts, including Free State Acoustics, Brendan Daniel, Red Pill Friends, and others. This will be Freedom Palooza Music Festival in the North Country at Roaring Brook Farm. We have a discount code for this to thank you for watching the show. Use Porcupine 2025 for 5% off your tickets. I'm going for the whole weekend of Freedom Palooza. I'm looking forward to it. But they also have day passes available. If you can only come for a day, that's better than missing out entirely. But I'm looking forward to staying for the full weekend. So I guess I didn't get enough of the North Country during PorcFest. I'm heading back up there again, and so are many of us. So whether you're a participant in the Free State Project currently here in New Hampshire, or you're someone from away, this is a great opportunity to experience the North Country porcupine community and some good times with good people. And also, I keep telling you about events, and here's another one. Now, this one requires leaving the state of New Hampshire. I know it's something that we are loath to do, but it's for a good reason. And we're actually going to be talking about this event with our guest, who is coming up, who I'll be introducing shortly. And that's going to be Ron Paul's 90th birthday barbecue coming up at Lake Jackson, Texas, August 9th, the day after my own birthday. I'm going to be stuck at airports during my birthday so that I can wish Ron Paul a happy 90th birthday. And we're sending a great delegation down from the Free State. It's a great opportunity to connect with folks in the Liberty diaspora, maybe some future movers there looking to live free or die in the Free State. And but of course, Dr. Paul has done so much for the Liberty movement. I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for him. And we want to have a great grand reunion of the Ron Paul Revolution. So you can get your tickets at ronpaulbbq.com. I'm really looking forward to it, and I hope to see some of you there. And to talk about that event and so much more, I want to welcome back to the show a friend, former colleague who I worked with during my time at Young Americans for Liberty, who is a native New Hampshire Granite Stater who now lives in Texas. Maybe we'll get him back one of these days. But came to the Porcupine Freedom Festival for the very first time this year. And I believe last year was his first time at the New Hampshire Liberty Forum. But he is my friend, and a Liberty champion. His name is Sean Themea. He is the Chief Operating Officer of Young Americans for Liberty. Let's welcome him to the show.
Breaky, thanks for having me. Good to be here as always.
It's good to have you. Sean, as I look behind you, I think, boy, I remember I recognize those windows. I recognize those trees from the Ron Paul. From the Students for Ron Paul, Young Americans for Liberty office in Austin, Texas. How's the weather down there?
It's great. It's only 94. If it gets to 95, maybe I start breaking a sweat. But I've developed a good resistance to the heat, being down here for 6 years. Maybe it was all those years of being in the frigid ice storms. I survived the ice storm of 2008. Out of New Hampshire. I was there for that. So if you can handle that, you can handle any weather.
Awesome. Well, I know we have a friend of the Free State who's down in Austin, Texas right now doing a meetup with a lot of libertarians to talk about the Free State Project. So I know that Austin, Texas has become a real hub for the Liberty movement in the country. I'm sure a big part of that's Young Americans for Liberty being there. But I was impressed when I was down there for a year and a half just how much is going on in Austin, Texas. So great place to go and steal libertarians from. Hopefully, I know there's so many great people, very talented activists who work with Young Americans for Liberty. I want to always be making the pitch to them that when they're middle-aged Americans for Liberty and they're ready to plant their flag somewhere, they should be looking at New Hampshire. But what is happening at Young Americans for Liberty these days? And then I'd love to get your reactions from PorcFest and talk about the Ron Paul 90th birthday barbecue going on.
Absolutely. A lot of great things going on here at YAL. We wrapped up our YALCon series this spring. training hundreds of students from across the country on how to be effective activists. We teach students to give them the ultimate civics lesson, right? So being able to challenge their university bureaucrats, challenge their state reps and state senators to actually, demand their freedoms are restored to them, right? Because that's the point of being in a position of power, right? Is, you're either going to vote in accordance with giving people their freedom back or restrain their freedom. And we teach students on how to demand their freedoms returned to them and put pressure on politicians, whether they're university bureaucrats or people in the state capitol. So excellent stories from all around the country of students visiting their state capitol and petitioning their university presidents to give them their freedom back and winning victories like pepper spray and campus carry on campuses across the country, abolishing free speech zones that restrict speech on campuses, demanding that schools have universal school choice and that the education system in their state is actually promoting the best fit for the student, the best fit for the child, instead of just funneling them into a government school, abolishing civil asset forfeiture like we did in Maine. These are all things that are possible from real students taking real action. And just couldn't be proud of our students across the country. Couldn't be more proud. We're gearing up for a big 2026. We have a door knocking program where we place student door knockers on campaigns for liberty candidates across the country, trying to elect the next Ron Pauls to state office, right? And we've got a great coalition of legislators that you yourself used to be a part of, people with principle, people who won't back down and just serve the party leaders, but will actually stand for freedom. So preparing for a big 2026 in some very important states that we really think can break loose and, become freer than they've ever imagined being. Of course, New Hampshire being one of them. And of course, this summer, we got the Ron Paul barbecue, which I'm excited for you to join that and plenty of other Free Staters to join that as well. Thank you to the Free State Project for being a proud sponsor of the Ron Paul barbecue this summer.
It's an honor. It's an honor. Well, before we kind of get to that, because I know there'll be a lot to talk about, I know that a lot of state legislatures around the country I know all these states have different timelines. So I'm sure there are many state legislatures that are still going on, but I know a lot of states have kind of are winding down or have winded down their legislative season. What have been some of the big fights that Young Americans for Liberty activists have been involved with so far this year? In state capitals around the country. I know you mentioned school choice, and of course, we had obviously a big fight for that in New Hampshire. But I know it's. I'm always curious a little bit about our friends in Wyoming, because I don't know if you know this. Wyoming was the second runner-up in the Free State Project state selection process, and I heard that this year, thanks to Young Americans for Liberty, they got like a huge sweep of liberty legislators elected. What's going on in some of the other states like Wyoming or other states in the country where YAL has had a real presence?
Yeah, tremendous progress in Wyoming. Looking back to last session, the establishment during the primaries, they tried to paint any candidate who was pro-freedom or who Young Americans for Liberty and our team took a look at and said, hey, these could be the next Ron Pauls. They tried to paint them as crazy hippies, right? People who destroy the Wyoming way of life and bring acid and all this, crazy drug legalization in the state. Ooh, very scary, right? It didn't work. The politicians that were elected are good people. The voters saw through all the mismessaging. And they've done great things since they've been in office. They were able to pass a universal school choice trifecta, right? So that's charter schools, the universal school choice in and of itself. So opening up the voucher program, and another component that allows for, more schools to flourish. So 3 great pieces of school choice legislation went through in Wyoming. There was also the start of a property tax repeal in Wyoming. We got a big cut there, and obviously, aiming for a full repeal in the future. So Wyoming is just shaping up to be this great place to live because the government is getting the heck out of the way and people are left alone where they can flourish and thrive. And so New Hampshire, obviously a rich history of trending in that direction as well, culturally and legislatively. But we're really seeing the floodgates open in Wyoming. And that all comes down to, we're students out there knocking on doors. We're students pressuring the politicians and getting other activists to pressure their politicians to behave correctly. We're getting the right people in office. And are we trending for a good gubernatorial candidate as well? We have the governor in there, Mark Gordon, right now, who has tried to veto some bills, has been overridden in those vetoes, and ultimately is, calling us out directly by name because he's afraid of the power that the Liberty Coalition has amassed. He's term limited and is unlikely to try and challenge those term limits. So if we get a really strong governor in Wyoming next year, get enough doors knocked and the right people running and things work out, I think Wyoming could take off like a rocket ship.
Awesome. I'd love to hear that. I know that certainly at the Free State Project, we want to recruit as many people as possible to come to New Hampshire and build the Free State here. But I also know that if we're going to really challenge the power of the kind of federal imperial Leviathan, using the 10th Amendment nullification powers that the state legislatures have, it's hard to do that just by yourself. So it's nice to hear that there are these other, I know that Young Americans for Liberty, you guys call them Liberty Lighthouse States. There are these other emerging Liberty Lighthouse States that can potentially, we could in the future be building interstate coalitions to directly nullify and challenge the federal government. So it's really nice that while we're kind of reaching a certain escape velocity here, there are some other states that maybe not always as perfectly libertarian, or maybe have maybe different brands on kind of what they consider to be liberty, but states where people believe in decentralization of political power and are willing to fight for it. So
yeah, and I love how it fosters competition amongst the states, this Liberty Lighthouse project we're running, because it's good for New Hampshire if Wyoming takes off like a rocket ship, because that puts the pressure on the activists and the good politicians in New Hampshire to say, hey, Wyoming just, abolish the property tax, repeal the property tax. Why can't we? And consequently, if New Hampshire does something great, a big civil liberties win, Wyoming can look at that and say, hey, they got away with that. How come we can't? And so we want to foster competition amongst the states, because it is much better to try and outdo, a state outdoing another state in its pursuit for freedom than try to, fix Washington, D.C. I mean, if the richest man can't cut government spending because the powers that be dog him at every turn, how the heck are we going to expect anything meaningful to get done there in a way that can touch our lives? We got to focus on our own communities, got to focus on the states. That's exactly what FSP is doing, and why I admire you guys so much.
Well, it's a team effort. I'm glad we got so many good strategic partners.
Yeah. Some might say it's a teama effort. That's what I did there. Yes. No, it's a team effort.
I'll give it to you. So let's talk about the Ron Paul 90th birthday barbecue coming up. I know that the last time there was an event like this, it was for Ron Paul's 80th birthday. I guess he does the big celebrations on the 10th intervals. I hope in 10 years we're doing this again for the 100th birthday, but you never know. So though he certainly seems to be in good health, but I really love seeing, when I look at the website at ronpaulbbq.com, I love seeing all these old friends and familiar faces who are kind of featured guests, friends from the Ron Paul Revolution who are coming out for this reunion. And I know you guys are working to try to get as many folks there as possible. Can you make your pitch for the event and why people should come out to Lake Jackson, Texas on August 9th?
Absolutely. I mean, if you could be anywhere in the world on August 9th, this Saturday, August 9th, I don't know why you wouldn't want to be surrounded by, the torchbearers of the Ron Paul Revolution and Dr. Paul himself. I will say, before I forget, tickets are selling out very fast, right? We are almost at capacity. So please get your tickets at ronpaulbbq.com today. But this is going to be the Super Bowl of all Liberty events that have ever been held across the country. That I can possibly think of. So many names in one place: Tom Woods, Scott Horton, Tulsi Gabbard, Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, Dave Smith. The list goes on. The Judge Napolitano, Justin Amash. So anyone and anyone you can imagine is going to be there for family, fellowship, friends, and free food. Well, there's no such thing as a free lunch. It is included in your ticket price. But there will be a full Texas barbecue. We'll be cooking on site there. And the point of this event is to honor Dr. Paul. I mean, this is a man who stood alone trying to push the ideas of liberty, peace, and prosperity in Congress in D.C. for years, right? Before he felt like anyone was really listening and with him. And we saw those floodgates open in 2008, 2012 with the grassroots. And now his ideas are becoming mainstream, right? They're being talked about on the new media, right, regularly, about why we need to reduce the size and scope of government, why peace is the answer, why the Federal Reserve must end. And so all the hard work he put in and all the time he spent standing alone speaking truth has paid off, has, created disciples, created these followers and leaders to his cause. And we're gathering there to honor the man who really started, this second ideological American revolution. So we'd love to have you there while tickets are still available. It's in Lake Jackson, Saturday, August 9th, which is Ron Paul's, hometown is Lake Jackson. So we're keeping it close to home. And, you got to risk it for the brisket, as they say. So, if you got other plans, move them.
I certainly, it's been nice as I've been reaching out to friends who I worked with in the Ron Paul effort in Maine in 2012. So that'd be 13 years ago. And some of them are still in Maine, but people have moved all around the country. Some are in Texas, some are in New Hampshire, some are other places, and encouraging folks to come out for this event. It really is. I think that sometimes it's hard, especially for the younger people in the movement, to understand just how significant it was what Ron Paul did. And I think about it too. I think about especially those 2008 presidential debates, to stand up, be the only person up on that stage who challenges kind of the narrative around the 9/11 attacks and blowback and understanding the disastrousness of these wars. Well, not just everyone on the debate stage is like flabbergasted and thinks that you're off your rocker for saying that, but all the moderators and the audience too, because of course we remember these audiences are like all the donors to the RNC, right? And it's only the people back home who are watching on TV who are having these light bulbs go off on their head. But I can imagine in that moment, it must have seemed like for Ron that every single person in that room was against him. And yet he refused to back down. He refused to, apologize. And he sparked a revolution that I can't imagine he could have seen coming. In Congress for 30 years and being ridiculed and dismissed as a gadfly, and staying consistent. Talk about a certain degree of stoic heroism, to persist in that way, not knowing that any of your efforts would ever come to anything. It's if we can't take some time to go and wish the good doctor a happy birthday, then boy, I don't know who deserves it.
I couldn't have said it better myself. And, on the stoicism and standing tall, the Giuliani moment, right? You alluded to, and that debate in 2007 for the 2008 campaign. He had the whole established court of public opinion against him, talking about blowback and why we need to stop overseas adventurism and these foreign wars because it can lead to real consequences for American citizens and soldiers. Remember, he challenged that. Brought up the anti-war position. Giuliani said, and I want him to apologize for what he just said. All eyes, the whole country's eyes are on him. He says, well, no. He paraphrased, no, I'm right, and I'm the one actually defending our troops. He said it much more humbly and matter-of-factly, but that was the core, is no, if you want to defend our troops, you need to bring them home and keep them out of these foreign wars that don't actually pertain to America's safety. And that moment woke a lot of people up, and it was like night and day for the Liberty movement after that. Just 30 seconds of him standing tall, and he had stood tall and strong for years before that in Congress, but this was the time where there are just certain moments that are make or break, I think, for a movement and for a cause, and he stood for that moment, and the rest is history.
Yeah, and I think it's hard to, alluding again to the younger people, it's hard to understand if you weren't there just how uniform the view was on the wars, at that point in time, certainly within the Republican Party, especially. George W. Bush was just finishing his second term. This was his party, and his legacy was built on 9/11 and the response to it, and the war in Iraq, and national security, and taking our civil liberties away, and And it was, it was heresy what Ron Paul did, and there were no podcasts back then. Like, this was the only way you could get your message out, was you get 30 seconds at a presidential debate, right? There was no Joe Rogan sit down for 3 hours. There was no Tucker Carlson. Well, I'm sure he was out there doing something. Though I will give credit to Tucker Carlson. Actually, he was at the rally for the Republic that year. He was already coming a long way from his old neoconservatism, roots that he left behind. In fact, I wouldn't be. It's like. Have we extended an invitation to Tucker Carlson yet? He should be wishing Ron.
Yeah, I give thank you to Scott Horton for directly extending the invitation to Tucker when he was on his show. Tucker would have loved to make it. Unfortunately, he's double booked. But we did get it literally right in front of him, and so he'll be at the 100th. Then that's the plan.
Awesome. All right. Well, Ron's got to keep riding his bicycle so that there will be a 100th. I'm really looking forward to it, and I think folks are coming from all around the country. So I hope we're going to have a good delegation from New Hampshire. I encourage all of our viewers to check their calendar for August 9th and grab their ticket while they can. Absolutely. Yeah, I saw tickets come in today from California and Maine and New Hampshire. So literally from all corners of the country, right? Far and wide, people are coming to Lake Jackson. You won't want to miss it. A once-in-a-lifetime type event. All the Liberty lovers in the room to honor Dr. Paul, plus Texas brisket. So who could ask for anything more? Well, now, what is the format of the event going to be? I mean, I see that a lot of guests, or imagine some of them are going to be speaking. I saw Jimmy Vaughn's going to be playing music. That's right. Yeah. Thank you for the reminder. You're not only honoring Dr. Paul and eating brisket and being with the Liberty movement, but you get to see Jimmy Vaughn himself live play a set. For those of you who don't know, Jimmy Vaughn, Grammy award-winning rock star, a heck of a guitarist. He's been with us. He's been with the Ron Paul Revolution the whole time. And so we're going to rock out. So he'll be playing. So the flow of events, or the flow of schedule, is, kickoff at 1:00. We'll have some speakers, announcements, panels, between about 2 and 4:30. 4:30, the big, barbecue machine will open up, the smoker will open up, and everyone will get their food, and there'll be plenty of time to eat. Jimmy will then play his set. We'll have some more speeches from some of our special guests. And then around 8:00 or so, Dr. Paul will give the closing remarks. There will be grand ovations and grandeur. And then we'll have a post-event, reception for all to attend. So, full afternoon, full evening, but one day only. So please, you won't want to miss it. Get your ticket before they sell out, ronpaulbarbecue.com. And I will say, all profits and proceeds from the event will go directly to the Ron Paul Institute, which is Dr. Paul's, nonprofit to spread the message of peace and prosperity. Great executive director, and Daniel McAdams. So all profits from the event will go toward supporting that great institution. Awesome. Well, Sean, some events that were longer than a single day. Particularly, we just had a week-long festival of the Porcupine Freedom Festival that you came out to, and Young Americans for Liberty was a sponsor, which we appreciate very much. And I will also note, I appreciate y'all sponsored New Hampshire Liberty Forum this year, and also last year when you came out to Liberty Forum. We're already in the works of planning things for next year. Awesome. But what was your experience like at PorcFest? This was your first time out. Is that right? It's true, yes. So I had purchased a ticket to PorcFest 2016. I was fresh out of college. I hadn't landed a job at Yale yet. And I was just like, hey, this looks awesome. I'm home for the summer. Let's go to it. And then some circumstances came up and I couldn't attend. The circumstances were my girlfriend's family invited me on a trip to Aruba. And I said, you know what? I'm going to do that because I'm young and stupid. And that sounds better than a libertarian festival. And about 10 years later, I came back for the first PorcFest in 2015. And I thought to myself, you know what? With all due respect to my wonderful college girlfriend and her family,
this is, an incredible event. I would have had an incredible time, probably an even better time than going to Aruba if I had went when I was 22, because it's a great event for all ages. I mean, I saw, families having a great time. I saw people of all ages uniting, right, for the cause of liberty. And I loved how decentralized it was. I mean, there were so many just diverse opportunities to engage in during the day. For example, I got to learn how to sing 16th century folk songs in rounds. Someone had led that in their tent. I'm a big singer performer, so I got to sing some songs. I got to buy some books. Someone was selling books out of their tent. Many people were selling, physical media, right? One that can't be corrupted by Big Brother, right? So spreading of knowledge, got to buy some books. There was plenty of, diverse food options, with Liberty themes. I'm pretty sure I saw some Liberty hot dogs, Liberty coffee, Liberty matcha, anything you could possibly think of. I got some chai. I got to see a bunch of old friends and meet some new friends who are fighting in New Hampshire. Got to learn how to, sessions, not just about the ideas of liberty, but also financial freedom, sessions on real estate and crypto. So I learned so much and met so many people in one day. And then, of course, got to have the privilege of talking to the crowd on the main stage about the work Young Americans for Liberty is doing and why I have so much hope for the next generation. Freedom is not one generation away from extinction, if we have anything to say about it. So definitely plan to come back next year, and looking forward to, seeing it continue to thrive. It's definitely an event I recommend going to.
Well, really glad to have you, Sean. And I know that we're already having our first meetings to start planning for next year. So we'll look forward to having you back. Hope you'll get to stay a little bit long, stay a few more days this next time.
Yeah, and that was all just one day in, one day out.
Yeah,
and I still had the best time. So
awesome. Well, so next year is you said 2026 there's gonna be a lot of work ahead for Young Americans for Liberty, and of course it is the 250th anniversary of the American Revolution. I think it's got to be our year, right? It's the year to restore the revolution and that 1776 spirit. What are some of the things Young Americans for Liberty is looking at for the election cycle ahead?
Absolutely. So lots of door knocking. I mean, every year the demand increases. The number of students that want to door knock become more interested because they see all of the success that we've had in the past with our door knocking campaign, Operation Win at the Door. Students have the difference, or they have the opportunity to be the difference of an election going the right way for a Liberty candidate or not going the right way, right? And if they're out there putting in the effort, a lot of these state rep races are like 20 vote differentials, right? You could argue the reason we have universal school choice in Iowa is in large part because Jeff Shipley won his race, a Yale alumnus, Jeff Shipley, by 20 votes in 2018 and 2020. He was one of the first people to really bring universal school choice to the table and try and make that mainstream in Iowa. And that passed in Iowa a couple of years ago. May not have passed if door knocking did not defend his honor in tough races. So really the chance for students to be a part of something big. I would say 2026 is going to be all about, seeing how many Liberty governors that we can get and how Yale recruited students can help play a role in that. We're seeing more than ever, people haven't officially announced in some cases, but you look in Maine, a certain someone who stood up and was censored by the legislature, Laurel Libby, right? And the Supreme Court sided with her. She spoke out, against men and women's sports in the high schools, and the legislature tried to shut her up and make her not be able to vote because of her free speech. Supreme Court sided with her. She's gaining a lot of momentum in Maine, and I personally think she can make one heck of a gubernatorial candidate. So we'll see what she does. But I
certainly see people speculating about it. Laurel is always very tight-lipped about her plans, even with me. So
yes, as any good Liberty leader should be. But I think her in a governor's seat would be incredible. Vivek Ramaswamy, he has never,
That's exciting to watch. What do you make of Vivek running for governor of Ohio right now?
Yeah. I think it's a huge opportunity. I mean, so far he's talked the talk. He doesn't have a voting record, but as far as you can go, or as far as you can bet on someone who doesn't have a voting record, I think that he's got great ambitions and is quite principled. I mean, he spoke for over an hour at Yale's conference in 2024 about, the case for, the future of libertarianism and how we need to make sure we're in these seats of power to reduce the size and scope of government and not give into our protectionist and overly populist mindsets that actually expand government when we're trying to reduce it and leave people alone.
He certainly understands the ideas and the philosophy, which is the first step. So
yes.
that's far further along than any other potential gubernatorial candidate usually is.
Right. And you look at the field in Ohio, and the Democrat side, one of the declared candidates is in effect the Fauci of Ohio. She played that role in public health and bought into every COVID conspiracy. It's funny, the COVID conspiracies actually turned out to be all just common sense and true. The real conspiracies were the lies that our public health officials and our government tried to tell us early on. But she represents all of that. And that's looking like who it might be the general election match with, right? So very important for the future of Ohio that we have someone at the helm who can talk the talk. And in Wyoming, there's several great candidates, who are speculated to run. You've got Senate President Bo Biteman. You got Secretary of State Chuck Gray. There's the possibility that, the congressman out there, Harriet Hageman, makes a run for governor, which would open up the congressional seat. They've got one congressional seat there. So this is all to say Wyoming's still in a position to really be put on overdrive. But I think that that's really what we can look forward to in our state legislative outlook is you've got these states that have governing minorities of hardcore liberty legislators. And if you get a governor in the state office who is vocally saying, hey, we need to be radical. We need to become bizarro California, as I like to say, the complete opposite of Illinois or California or New York, leading from the front in the governor's mansion. That's a huge opportunity. And so if the right candidates declare, Young Americans for Liberty fully intends to recruit and help place, door knockers into campaigns that can they can be the difference maker as to whether you not have a governor who embodies that spirit of Ron Paul. That could be tremendous.
Well, let me ask you, because, we do have some young people in our Free State movement. I particularly, I think of a number of folks who've been longstanding in the movement, who've had Liberty kids who are now on the cusp of being Liberty adults and going off to college. And maybe they would like to get involved with Young Americans for Liberty on their college campus or on some of these Operation Win at the door knocking campaigns. For a young, energized Liberty person looking to make a difference, how would they get involved?
Yeah. Well, you should go to yaliberty.org/join. That's yaliberty.org/join. You can also just go on our main site, yaliberty.org, and the button is right there at the front. And that's how you get involved, to become an official member. It's just $10, right? And that gets you access to Young Americans for Liberty national events, gets you a lot of swag, gets you first priority on job opportunities, such as door knocking and full-time jobs in the Liberty movement. And you can be a part of something big. So, our website, yaliberty.org, people can join as an official member. You can also follow us on all of our social accounts, Facebook, I guess now known as Meta, Twitter now known as X, and Instagram, TikTok. We're all there with the handle @YALiberty to follow along with our work and our message. But we want to get folks involved, right? Again, freedom is only one generation away from extinction. I'm very confident that that's not happening anytime soon with the type of students I see who are out there fighting. But we've always got to be recruiting new blood because if we're not growing, we're dying. That's true for any political movement. So we'd love to have you on board.
Awesome. Well, I know when young people ask me for advice on kind of what to do on their college campus, it's always, do you have a Young Americans for Liberty chapter there yet? And if not, what are you going to do to start one?
Exactly. So, that is very sage advice. I can fully endorse it.
We could certainly, I think we could use a few more chapters in New Hampshire. I know we're so strong on the Liberty movement in New Hampshire, but I don't know that enough of the college campuses have YAL chapters yet. So
yeah. I'll give a shout out to Elliot Booten over at the University of New Hampshire out in Durham. He has stood tall. He has built an excellent chapter at UNH. And we have our eyes set on getting the rest of the schools as strong as UNH this year. I mean, think about, how unstoppable New Hampshire could be with active groups across the entire state. And UNH has been the standard bearer we're looking to see that blow up this year.
Awesome. I'm trying to think what let's see. I feel like we've covered everything that was on my list, Sean. Let me ask you, I guess, just about like New Hampshire in general. You grew up here and you left it behind, but you still have family. You come to visit us in the Free State when you can. What's your favorite thing about New Hampshire growing up?
Yeah. Well, I'm a big beach guy, and we got a whole 7 miles of shore, right? So I love going out to Hampton. I grew up about a half an hour from there in Chester, New Hampshire, right? I think one of my favorite things about New Hampshire now is realizing the beauty that I didn't fully appreciate as a young kid, right? Because when you're growing up, you're under the age of 18, and you live on a quiet street in a town with no stoplights, no chain stores, and no nightlife, right? You dream of the big city, right? New York, DC, LA, getting out, that independence, right? Now that I'm 31, and I'm a young American for liberty, but I'm getting wiser, as they say. What sounds pretty good right now is a town with no stoplights, no chain stores, no nightlife, and some peace and quiet. So New Hampshire's full of that. But yeah, I loved Hampton growing up. My dad and I would go hike Mount Monadnock as well. So I just think what's beautiful about New Hampshire is you can really get such a variety of nature, and I almost said variety of seasons, which I guess, no, you get a variety of seasons.
Yeah, we have all 4 seasons up here.
Yeah, I'm getting confused with Texas. Texas,
we don't get summer and really hot summer.
Right. So yeah, you got the mountains for hiking, you got the skiing in the winter on those mountains, you got the beach. It's quite a holy and international state too, because tell me, what other state can you visit Lebanon, Bethlehem, and Berlin all in the same day if you really, committed to driving around? Be that as it may. Yeah.
And if you cross the border into Maine, you can hit China.
Exactly.
And Mexico.
Yes.
Yeah.
You just got to really, get a hybrid car so you don't blow all your gas money, driving.
Yeah.
But it's a great state. If you want a place that is culturally sound and is intentionally saying, hey, we want to drive the culture toward liberty, libertarianism, and peace, while also being in a great environment, decent education, compared to the rest of the country, of course, with universal school choice, that's going to blow up even more in a positive way. Then I fully endorse getting back up there, right? If I'm truly speaking my truth, though, you got to have a taste for the winter, right? It can get a little cold. I'm a wuss now that I live in Texas, which is why here's the master plan, Eric, right? Because I signed the pledge to move back someday. If I make it big on Texit Coin, that's right, you heard me correctly. If you missed the Bitcoin rush, you might consider Texit Coin, which is a top sponsor of the Ron Paul Barbecue, right? Run by a Ron Pauler, and they do the mines out in Texas, Bitcoin adjacent. So if I make it big in Texit Coin, I'm going to get one of the 50 houses that are actually on the beach, because there's only like 50 houses that are actually on the beach, right? Maybe Rye, maybe Hampton. If I don't make it big in Texit Coin, then, I can always go to Berlin, right? No offense to anyone who lives up there, but hey, low cost. But someday I will return in some capacity.
Well, we'll look forward to having you back. If nothing else, we'll look forward to you continuing to visit. And I know that we're trying to see if for next year we can, we've been very reliant on our 2 major flagship events as opportunities to get people to come out and visit New Hampshire Liberty Forum, PorcFest, great events. And we bring out, thousands of people every year to come visit New Hampshire. It's great. But that's just 2 opportunities a year. And I think for 2026, we're really asking the question, what can we do to create and support more events that are opportunities, anchor events, opportunities for people to come and visit in particular niches? So I personally have my heart set on like trying to get some kind of big like libertarian hiking event together for 1 month next year. Maybe for all of those libertarians who have a good taste for nature, would be a good opportunity to come and visit. Maybe we could even get Sean Themea out for that.
Maybe you get me out for that. I think that'd be a lot of fun. And another quick plug for a great New Hampshire staple. If you like Chinese food, if you like karaoke, No better place than Yi Dynasty out on South Willow Street. It's where the great minds meet, and a lot of fun times are had. So big fan of Yi.
And allegedly, every Christmas, New Year's season, certain people gather there to sing karaoke and have Chinese food. So,
oh yeah, we're already planning this year's reunion, so you're all invited.
Awesome. Sean, I really appreciate you coming on, and I really appreciate all the work that everyone is doing at Young Americans for Liberty. It is, I will say the most important national institution in the libertarian movement. Free State Project being the most important overall, but we're not national. We're local. So, what you guys do with mobilizing young people and getting them, not just talking about liberty ideas, because there's a lot of groups out there that talk about liberty ideas. We can all have our libertarian book clubs. I'm not opposed to them. But Young Americans for Liberty mobilizes young people to, make a difference on college campuses and in these state legislative races. And I think that, what has been accomplished with all of these Liberty state legislators elected in New Hampshire and Wyoming and around the country, all the folks who form the Hazlitt Coalition that you have, I think that this is really like the quiet, unsung revolution of the libertarian movement right now. Is everyone's focused on what's happening in Washington, D.C. and the circus that goes on there. It's like, when I was in the state Senate, when I first got there, maybe there were like 10 or 12 like Ron Paul legislators around the country, and now there's 400. And that's not just people willing to step up and run, but that's people willing to step outside and go knock on doors to support those folks. And you guys have really brought the grassroots army to make the difference. So I hope that all in the liberty movement recognize the progress that's been made on the state levels around the country, and recognize that the work of Young Americans for Liberty has been a big part of that.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And I appreciate you being a standard bearer and a role model for a lot of those young activists who are looking up and saying, hey, I want to grow up to be the next Ron Paul, the next Thomas Massey, the next Eric Brakey, right? It's people leading from the front like you that can have a real compound interest effect on the movement. So keep up the great work at FSP, and all the folks who are involved at FSP are doing a great job.
Thank you, Sean. Really appreciate it.
You bet.
All right, everyone, that's the show. Did you hear that? The next Ron Paul, the next Thomas Massey, the next Eric Brakey. I believe the first two. I think Sean was just being nice to me on that third one. But all the same, I hope to see you at the Ron Paul 90th birthday barbecue, August 9th in Lake Jackson, Texas. We're going to have a great delegation from the Free State. And also, be sure to get your tickets for Freedom Palooza. That is coming up not this Saturday, but the next following weekend, still in July. FreedomPaloozaNH.com to get your tickets. Use the discount code Porcupine 2025 for 5% off. And I will see you there. Let's make some friends, make some music, and have some good times up in the North Country. And I will also, just as a nice little bonus treat, Sean Themea, our guest who was just on, of course, he spoke at PorcFest. We've already published his remarks. You can find it on our YouTube page or on X or Facebook. But we're going to just post after the show, just as a nice little bonus Easter egg for those of you who've stuck around to the very end, a clip from Sean Themea's remarks. And of course, you can go and find the full remarks in all the places I just told you about. All right. Those are the things I wanted to cover. That's all I got for today, everyone. Furthermore, my opinion is the Federal Reserve should be destroyed.
So what is Young Americans for Liberty, right? Simply put, we start as a student group, like Eric said, students for Ron Paul, but now we're a political machine, right? We're building a youth army. We're electing liberty legislators, and we are passing liberty legislation, right? And we're doing this because we want to create liberty lighthouse states. Right now, if you ask, the mainstream media or your uncle who's not that much into politics, they'd say, hey, what's the freest state in the country? They might say, oh, well, Texas, because yeehaw, or the free state of Florida, because, that's a catchy slogan, free state of Florida. We intend, through the work that we're doing year over year, as long as it takes, to build states like New Hampshire, help throw them into overdrive so that states will stand out, become reverse Californias. Everyone in the country is looking around and saying, what the heck is happening in New Hampshire? What the heck is happening in Wyoming and Idaho? Why are so many people flocking there, moving there? And how did they slash the government so much, right? So that's what we're here to do. We're here to build a youth army, elect liberty legislators, pass liberty legislation so we can fundamentally take some of these states back to the foundation.